So, welcome you guys again. My name is Shiv Subramanian, and you're watching Troubleshoot Tech. Right. So, welcome you all to the third session of Docker. Right. And in this session, I prefer to clear you about some of the basics of networking first, and then we'll slowly move to the netting and patting part, which we'll do in the next video. So because I thought networking should be clear first, so this video is dedicated for the Docker networking, or how networking is done inside Docker, how we can create our own network and deploy our containers into the personal network that we have, right? So let me start from some of the basic Docker commands that we are going to first see, right? Some of the important commands, right? So let me start from here. All of you might try some of the things like running a container and doing lots of stuff, right, from the previous videos. So you might be fussing how to clean the environment, right now, as you can see, I have lots of run containers which I have actually exited, right. So how can I clean my environment, right? So these are the containers which I don't want, right? So how can I remove this? I can simply use a command called docker rm, which means remove, and I can forcefully remove it, and I can either give the initial some characters or of the container ID, or I can just use the container name, right? So as you can see, the container name is me3. I can use it like me3, and it is removed, right? So if I again run this command, you can see it is removed, right? It is removed totally. So but it takes a lot of time to remove all these containers, right? So how to do clean the whole environment in just a second. So what I want, either I take all the names, or I can use the IDs from that, right? So there is a command in docker, like docker ps hyphen a and hyphen q. What this option will do, this option will give me the IDs, the initial container IDs of all the things, right? So I can say yes, this is the container IDs of all those containers which I have exited, right? So what I can do, I can merge these two commands. Which command? Docker ps, oh sorry, docker remove forcefully, and docker ps hyphen a hyphen q, right? But since I'm doing this in bash, right, in linux, so this will not give me output, right? So for this I have to use a symbol called dollar, because I'm merging two commands right now, right? So simple. So as soon as I run this, it will clean all my environment. Now I use docker ps hyphen a, I can see, you can see all the environment is cleaned with just a command, right? You can just re remember this command, right? It's a very useful command to just clear out your environment, right? So yes, let me clear out the screen. So another important command is known as docker logs, right? This is again one of the important command that we use always, right? So for explaining this, let me go like this. So right now I'm having these images, right? So what I do, if I start some process inside a container, let's see, for example, docker run, give me interactive terminal. It's always a good practice to name your container. For example, I'm giving as os1, and I'm using CentOS version sorry, CentOS version 7. Right? So as soon as I run it in just a second, right, I can get my new container or OS ready, right? So for example, if I start some process, let me say, because this container is empty, so just I'm starting the ping process. As you can see, the pinging starts. Okay, so my network is a bit slow, right? So I'm stopping it. uh let's try that again. Yeah, this time it is pinging. Right? So as you can see right now, let's see if I'm escaping, or I'm getting out of my container, right? I'm not exiting it, I'm not closing it. You know how to do that, right? You have to press your left control P plus Q, and you came out of the process. So right now, as you can see, or you have start some process, right? Or maybe installing process, or whatever the process is right now. Right now your Docker container is running, right? You can see your Docker container running, but you want to see that what is the state inside this container, what is really happening inside the container. For this you can use Docker logs command, right? What it will do it will show you the last screen from that container. Okay, you can just install any container, you can start any process, right? And you can see what is the process running behind the scene inside the container. It will show you the last screen, or the current screen which is there in this running in this container, right? So as you can see, it was pinging something and then it got unreachable, right? So let me run it again and see. Okay, so still it is destination unreachable. My network is a bit slow, right? Let's check it again and it's still like that. So if you want to see, like, you don't have to do this all the time. Okay, okay, like it's equals to 190, it is still unreachable and gone with that. So if you see want to see in real time what is happening behind the scene, what you can do, you can pass a option called -f. So it in real time you can see what is happening right now. So it started pinging to my network, and then it again becomes unreachable, and it then started pinging, right? So you can put Control C and you can exit from it, right? Let me clear it. So right now, as you can see, my container is running, right? But another important command is the execute command, the Docker execute command, right? Which is another most important thing, right? So just I'm attach. So I'm going inside the container, right? It was pinging, stopping it, right? So, and I'm coming out of my container, right? I just get inside the container, stop the pinging process, and I have exited, like not stopped the container, right? As you can see, I have not stopped the container, but I've just press Control PQ to come out of the container, right? So another important thing is there is a command called Docker execute, right? In which I can put up any container to for execution, right? So so let me do this in this way. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop OS1. So it is stopped. Let's remove it, and OS1. So it is removed. So right now I'm not having any container. So let me start one container. Docker Docker run. Let's say in detach mode, diminish mode, like in background, right? So let's give it a name as OS2 and let's run CentOS on it, right? So I have started this container at the background, right? You can see this is running. So if I want to enter into terminal, right? What I can do attach and then OS2, right? By this I can enter into the container, right? But if I did exit, right? So if I'm attaching it attached, right? So if I somewhat do exit, it will stop my container, right? Or so I have to press Control PQ and do the things from my base system, right? So there is one more method in by which we can get the terminal of my container, right? So for this we have to use a Docker execute, and the container name is OS2, and what I want, I want the bash shell to execute. Like it's a command, right? Bash is a command. So whatever I'm saying this, I'm writing in the terminal. It is because of this bash container. And CentOS also use same bash, right? So after getting bash, I want it to interact with me. It should be an interactive terminal. So as you can see, hit enter and you're into the same container, right? You can do whatever things you want, right? For example, maybe if you want ping again, right, you can stop, right? You can do the things, but the one difference between attach and execute command is that if I do exit, right, right now I have exited the container, right, and I'm into my base system, but then also my process or my container is still running. Why? Because I have exited from the bash shell, right? I have exited from the bash shell and not from the container. But this is not in the case of attach, right? So if I do docker attach os2, I'm into the same container, and if I do exit, it will stop my container, right? So if I do docker ps, as you can see, the process stop. So this is the thing which we mostly do in thing. Sometime we require to not to attach, right? It will attach all the whole container to me, but I just want a terminal from that so that I can get exit. So we can use the docker execute command, right? So this was the one thing which I wanted to show you. Let me clear it first, and let me remove or let me clean my environment, right? So as you can see, I have no containers left, right? So yeah. So now this was the some of the basic or important commands which is quite important you to learn, right? So now get back to our main topic, which is about the networking of uh, in networking inside Docker, right? So let me start in this way. Like Docker, there is a command called Docker network, and you can see the list of that, right? So we're going to discuss all these network, maybe not host this time, right? But we're going to surely discuss about bridge, which is just a name. This is important, right? The driver which is used, right? The driver driver bridge, the host driver, and the null driver, right? So we're gonna discuss these two, and also we're gonna create our own network, right? And own personal area network, whole PLAN, you can say, personal local area network, you can say, right? And host, this will be a topic for the next video, right? So who provides us the services, right? For example, my base systems network card, right, which is ANP0S3, right? Who gave me this IP, right? Who gave me this IP? Who gave me this net mask address, right? Who this is not my it is of 3 octets, right? This is my network name, and this is my network ID. So the network name is 192.168.43, and then 113 is my system's IP, right? So who provided me this IP, right? Who provided me this networking setup, right? My network card setup. Who provided me? So there's a thing called gateway, or you have also heard about a router also, right? So they are the hardware or software which are there to provide the IP services or the internet services for us, right? You can see from a command called root hyphen n. So so as you can see, this is my ENP0S3, my main Red Hat base systems IP address, right? This is my gateway IP. So it is the one which is going to provide me internet services from my base system to the outside port, right? So as you can see, it is of I have told you that 3 octets were there for my uh, network address. So the base 192.168.43 will be same, and this will change. As you can see, it is 13 in my case, right? So the gateway will be the thing which is going to provide me the services, right? So just like that only. So if I do docker run, and if I run any it is always run any container, and it is always good practice to give a name to it, right? So let it be C, right? Let me use CentOS version 7, right? so so right now I'm not having if config, right? I'm not having it. So let me install right? So yum install, you know the software name, it is nettools and -y, right? So it will by default use the internet connection. For this you must be having an active internet connection for this. So let it download. So it is complete. So if I do if config command, as you can see, this is my ethernet connectivity, this is the IP of my container, right? So who provided me this IP, right? Who provided me this IP? Again, the answer is your gateway or your router, right? So your gateway or router works as a DHCP server, right? It is a dynamic host configuration protocol, right? So right now in my case I'm using my mobile's internet connectivity, right? So I'm using a hotspot, right? So right now my mobile is used as a DHCP server, right? I have an image deploying this, right? So as you can see, this is my this is my main network, right? This is my main uh, network. Sorry for this. Yeah. So this is my main network. So inside this I'm running two containers. Right now I'm having just one container. So what it does, it connects you to a default network to the gateway, and the router has another end in which it connects to the outside world, maybe internet, right? Or maybe to the Google server or whatever it may be, right? So right now what I'm having a mobile device right? This is my uh, mobile right now, right? So what is there? So right now all the packages are not going from my base gateway, right? It is going to my mobile phone, and mobile phone is getting the things and getting the reply, and again it is giving to this my base systems router, and then it is passed over to the container. So my, as you can say, my mobile device wholly works as a DHCP server, right? It is using as a router, gateway and all that, right? So it is an intelligent device that it does the things for you so simply, right? So sorry for the handwriting. Not very good at writing in paint, right? So just for understanding, right, you have got my point, right? So this is how the internal things work, right? So as you can see, so let me exit from my container, right? So right now you can see there is no container running. So let me clear cleared out, right? So as you can see, if I do docker uh, network ls, right? So the bridge is the default driver in which all the containers by default run, right? So bridge is the one which provides you the IP address, right? That you have seen in the container, what it was 172.17.0.1, right? I think 2, right? So whatever it may be. So this is the driver which provides you the IP, right? So the proof, so how we can prove it? So we have a command called docker network inspect command, and which thing I have to input? I have to inspect the bridge, right? So You can see this is my subnet mask, right? It is 16, so it is using two octets, 8 and 8. So this is my network name, and this can vary, right? And this is my gateway IP, right? So whatever the container, if requesting something, it will go to this IP and ask that I have something to do with it. So this IP will go to the internet or to the outside world to fetch whatever the information that I want, right? So as you can see, these have many information right now. It has its own ID, its driver is bridge, right? And all those things. It has no containers running right now, right? So this is the gateway IP I was talking about. So if I launch any container inside this, so you have seen that it was 172.117.0.2, right? Because one is my gateway IP. So it provides the IP according to that, right? So right, so we have done this. So how or what provides this uh, IP, right? I have told you about it. It is the management of IPAM, right? Which is Internet Protocol Address Management, right? IPAM. It's somewhere here also written. Yeah, it is IPAM, right? So here it is written as IPAM, which is providing me the network routing and all those kind of things, right? So I have told you that by default every container runs inside the bridge, right? Why? Because it provides a internal connectivity between the containers, right? It provides a it provides an internal linking, right? As you can see, I have written it like it provides an internal linking between the containers, right? So let me see if I'm having any running containers right now. No, I'm not having it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a container right now, right? So let me give it a name, right? It is always, as I already told you, it is good practice to give name. So let me give it a C2, right? So as you can see, if I press enter, my new container launches, right? I'm not exiting, I'm using control PQ to get out of the container. You can see my container is still running C2. Right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go for a Docker network inspect bridge, and as soon as I do, you can see that in containers a new container launched which has the name as C2 and it contains the IP address as 2. So which provided me, who provided me this IP? This IPAM only provided me this IP, right? So this will be my IP. You can test it by yourself, right? You can just go again inside your container and download the net tools software, and when you do ifconfig command, you will see the same also the same IP, right? So so let me just clean my environment, right? So let me stop the container, right? So right now I'll be showing the linking, like how it is linked between the services, right? So let it stop. It is stopped. So let me clear the whole environment. Let me start from the beginning, right? Funny hyphen q, right? So my environment is clean, right? Oh, sorry, that was a typo error, right? So yes, so let me start from the very beginning. Like if I'm having the image of CentOS, right? So what I'm going to do, um, so let me start from like this. Right, I have these images. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the CentOS 7 image only. I'm going to show you the linking between the containers, so how it is linked. Since I have told you the by default it launches from the network called bridge, right? So there is always an internal connectivity between these two containers, right? Between these two containers, right? So let me show this demo to you. So if I run docker it command and give a name called c1 and let me use CentOS version 7, right? So inside this I'm going to install the uh, net tools for giving me my IP, right? Net tools hyphen y. So edit install, right? My internet connection is a bit slow, sorry for this. Okay, let's try another mirror. So it has done installing, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to control PQ, I'm going to sir, and I'm going to stop the container right now. I'm going to stop the container as C1. I prefer this was the name which I had given to this image. I prefer right C1. Yes, stop C1, and then what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit this because I will be needing this if config. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an new image, right? uh, like you know how to create our own image, right? Using docker commit and the name of the container and whatever the name which I'm gonna. So let me give as IP OS, right? With version 1. So so it is done, right? Simple. Now you can do docker images. So as you can see, that's called IPOS. It just contains a software which is if config, right? It just contains the NetTools software, that's all. So I'm going to remove the container C1. Done. So yes. So if I run docker it and so let me put it in this way. If I do dit and use my IP OS version 1 and just give it a name as OS 1, just maybe, right? So I'm launching this in the background state, right? So I'm launching another one as say OS 2, launching this also in background. So this both the containers launched inside the bridge network, right? So I can use the docker sorry network inspect bridge, right? So you can see two containers named OS2 and OS1 with the IPs like this, right? So how can I just prove that these two are linked, right? So if they are linked, they should be able to ping each other, right? So what I'm going to do, uh, let me clear, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the docker execute command. What I want is interactive terminal and of OS1, and I want bash shell from it, right? I'm into the OS1. I can do the if config command, and you can see this is my IP. So I will be able to ping the another container's IP which is 0.3, right? So you can see It's pingable, right? But but since it is in the same network, but then also I will not be able to ping my container with the name, right? So if my another container name was os2, you can see I cannot ping with os2, right now I'm in my os1 container, but I'm not able to ping with name, right? I cannot ping with name. So let me exit. So this will not stop my process, right? You can see, because I have come out of my bash, right? Bash prompt, right? So my both the containers are still running, right? So for linking the containers with the name, so there is a option called hyphen link, right? There is an option called hyphen link by which you can link the containers, right? So what I'm going to launch another container, right? Maybe like os 3, right? So let me give an interactive terminal, right? So there's an option called hyphen link. So which container I want to link? I want to link my os1 container, and maybe link my os2 container also, right? So hit enter, it will run for me. I can see this is my IP of my os3, right? So if I want to ping with 0.17.0.2, I can, right? Or if I want to ping with the container name, because this OS can it is linked with the OS1 and OS2, I can also ping with the name, right? So it is pinging with the container name, which is OS1, and also I can do this also with OS2. It's pinging, right? So this is how you put up a container and just do these things, right? So let me exit from this, and let me remove or clean my environment again. What is that command? Okay, yes. Right. So call ps hyphen a. So nothing is there. My environment is clear. So what I'm going to do now, so this the basic topic is clear. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a network called net1 and net2, and I'm going to show you that this network or the net1 is totally different from this network or n2, right? So what is this? If I create my own network as net1, and inside this I launch two containers of c1 and c2, I can able to link them, and I create another network as net2, and inside this I create c3 and c4. These two containers will be linked, right? That we know. But it is not possible for c2 to connect with c3, or to c1 to c4. It is not possible network, because these two are isolated. These two networks are isolated. So let me create first, like you can do docker network, and you can just use help to see the options that we got connect, disconnect, create, inspect, right? We're gonna see all these commands, right? We're gonna see all these commands right now. So let me start from here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the network create command, right? What I want to do, I'm going to create a new network, say network, right? So by default it will use the bridge driver, right? So but it is always good practice to just give the driver name, right? So my driver is bridge, right? So hit enter and done. So now you do the what's that? Okay, docker network ls. You can see a new network named net1, which is having a driver called bridge, is created automatically, right? And the beautiful thing about creating our own network is that this thing will provide me the internal linking of my C1 and C2 container uh, with name also, right? I can ping the containers with name also, and that is the beautiful thing about creating our own network, right? Because what it does is that I can just use my network for testing purpose also and doing it also, because IP may change, right? IP, for example, right now I'm sitting in a location A, which is having a different IP. So after some time I go to some other place to be, it will the IP will change, but the container name will not be changed. So it's always a good practice to create our own network and deploy all the containers inside that also, because you by default get the container name pinging, right? You can also have the pinging or linking between the containers with the name. So that is the beautiful thing about creating your own network, right? So I'll be showing you how it is done, right? So as you can see, so let me create another network as net2, right? So as you can see, done. So right, so two our own network is created, net1 and net2, which is having the driver as bridge, right? So let inspect this, what it is having, right? So docker network inspect. So let's inspect net1, right? So net1 will be having the network name as 170.18, right, 16. So you can see 2 octets, right? And it will be having a gateway IP as 170.18, right? So every container launched inside sorry guys so every container launched inside this container will be having the network this and having IP this, right? Other than one, it will be something else, right? But this thing will same because it is a network name. So right now no containers is running. So similarly, see the let's inspect the net2. So as you can see, this is my again network name. Any container launch will be having these two things, these two octets as same, and this can differ, like right, these two containers can differ. So let me clear and let me do docker run, give me an interactive terminal. So um, so uh, let me run it in detach mode, right? And let me name it as C1, right? And I'll be using the IPOS version 1, right? Done. So let me launch another container as C2. Okay, so but as I haven't defined what I did, right? I haven't defined what I did, because by default this will launch inside my bridge network and not inside my network, right? So for this, what we have to do, so let me uh, give me interactive terminal, right? So what is going to do, for this we have to define in which network we have to pass this container to. There is a option called network, in which network I have to give it to. I want to give it to net1. So as you can see, okay, so uh so that was thing hyphen network, I believe. So yes, so it is hyphen network, and I have passed this into network. So I am into my own network right now. So I'm going to control PQ, right? So if I see docker network inspect and net1, and see I have my containers running with C2, right? This is my, and this will be this is my IP right now, right? So let's see if it is correct or not. So what I'm going to do, to docker execute, I want interactive terminal of container C2, and I want bash from it, right? So if I do if config, you can see there's 170.18.0.2, just same as this, right? So this is running inside my net 1 network which I have just created, right? So so I'm exiting it. So docker ps. So right now my c2 container is running inside my net 1, right? But c1 is running inside my default bridge, which is bridge, right? So how can I just do this? So we have a command called docker network disconnect, right? Called disconnect. Which container I have to disconnect? I have to connect c1. From which? From bridge. So okay, so I have changed the place, right? So it is disconnected from bridge, and I want to connect to the container c1 to net 1, and done. So now I do docker inspect. Where is that? Yeah, inspect net 1. As you can see, on the fly I just disconnected my c1 network from the default bridge driver, and I have added this to my net 1, right? So, and this is the IP address of this container, right? I can also verify this, right? As you can see, I can use the execute command, and which I want c1, right? Done. And if I do ifconfig, see, same IP, right? And because I've told you that this network is made by us, so what it will do, it will have the linking with the name also, right? So I can ping another container with the name also. Right now, as you can see, it's pinging, right? Or else I can also ping with its IP address. I prefer that it is 172.17, no, it will be 18.0.2, I think, right? Because c1 was 3, so I can say, yeah, it's correct. Just pinging also. So by default, I'm in my network which I created, we can launch the we can launch the uh, uh, or we can just ping with the name also. That is by default enabled inside. So what I was trying to tell you is that on the fly you can on the fly you can just disconnect any network from any network. Let's say this net 1, I can just connect it to another network. So maybe this will be your maybe testing network, right? And this will be your the main deployment network, right? So you can just test this container here, and if it is all correct, if it is all perfect, right, you can just take this container and connect to this network, where you have to actually deploy this network, and you have to work with these containers, and it will by default be connected, right? It will by default be linked to all these networks, which is the beautiful thing about docker, right? How beautifully it does or gives the things to you, right? So let me exit from it, and let me clear. But two containers are running, which is c1 and c2. So what I'm going to launch another container, right? Let me see in background, right? And going to give name as c3. I'm going to use IP OS version 1, right? And I'm going to use the network which is net 2, right? Done. And I'm going to launch another container as c4, and done, right? So if I use docker ps, so right now c1 and c2 are being used inside my network net 1, and c3 and c4 are inside my net 2 network, right? Just like wait, just like this, right? So this is both are in net 1, these both are in net 2, right? So as you can see, let's see the IP address of C3. I can either go inside or I can just use the docker inspect command, right? So let me inspect net 2. So the IP address of the C3 container is this and C4 container is this, right? I have already proved you that this is the IP of this of the container, right? So right now the network net 1 and net 2 are not connected, right? So the containers will also not able to ping these containers of net 2, right? So C1 cannot be able to ping C3 and C2 cannot be able to ping C3 or C4 and vice versa, right? All those things. So let me show you. So what I'm going to do, docker execute, give me interactive terminal of C, so let's see C1 and I want bash, right? So if I do ping with the IP of let's say C3, right? So let me give the C3's IP address, which is 172.19.0.2. See, it will not able to ping, right? Because these two networks are isolated. These two cannot get along, right? These two cannot be able to ping. Although also most probably it will fail. Also I can try to ping with the container name, it will also fail, right? So it said no service or no nothing is there, right? So right now I'm exiting it, right? Right. So let me clear. So right now my 4 containers running. So this point was proved that these networks are totally isolated, they are two different networks, right? So another thing which is the important thing which is to define, right? So how we can just create our own network and we can just deploy the things, right, beautifully inside the docker, right? So let me give you a very important or a very beautiful use case of no, not like that. So yeah. Let's try to develop a beautiful use case of creating the network and do these things, right? So let me say this way: we have to create a load balancer, right? I think I must have that thing, right? Yeah. So let's create a load balancer, right? Which we do this, right? We can use the simple uh, uh, DNS, right? The DNS services, domain name services, for creating a simple load balancer use case, right? So what I'm going to do, as you can see inside my net 1, I am having my container C1 and C2, and I will be having some site, right? You know about the web hosting that we have done, right? So this is the site that we'll be having. So what we have to do, the first so if a client just asks for any website, the first client will go to this, the second client will go to this IP, the third client will go to this IP, the fourth client will be go to this IP, like third and the fourth one will go to 6 by way, and then the 5 will go to this and 6 will go to this. So like this. So this is just a simple round robin method of creating the load balancer, right? So how this we're going to just it is so simple how we can do this, right? So for this, let me say like in this way. So let's start from the very beginning, right? Just create just destroy or all our environments right now, right? So I'm going to destroy all my, I'm just cleaning my environment, right? So I'm going to docker remove -f and dollar docker ps -a -q, done. All control will be stopped and my environment will be totally cleaned up, right? So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a unique name of my network as site, right? Just like an alias name, and like another giving another name, right? Why? Because as you can see, I can use the IP address, and also I can use the name of google.com to access any site, right? So how that can be done? So I can either ping to these containers with their IP, right? Or I can ping with this container, right, with the container name as we have already seen. But but client does not require to know the IP address or my container name, right? He does not require that. He or she, so it may be concerned, he does not require that. So how can we do this? So just like giving a network name, right? So Google has so many IPs right now, right? It has mail servers, it has API servers, database servers running. But what we know, we just know a common network or DNS name, which is google.com. That's all. That is all that we know, right? So how can that be possible? So for that, as you can see, my DNS will be able to resolve this IP. So behind the every DNS, it will have an IP running, right? So if I do ping 8.8.8, which is the official IP of Google, it is pinging, right? It is pinging. But if I write ping www dot google.com, it will ping, but after some time, because it will go inside my DNS server. It will search for the Google IP. It will resolve the IP address of my Google inside that, and then it will start pinging. As you can see, it has started the pinging process, right? It will directly inside go my DNS server, and it will try to fetch the IP address of this Google thing right now. So where is my DNS present? I can just simply show you the um, okay. So where is that? Resolve.conf, right? So yes, so this is the name server, this is the DNS server only. This is the IP address of the name server. So when I write ping, the gateway will directly contact to this IP, which is the name server, which will resolve or give me the IP of google.com, and then it will start to ping, and it will start to connect with the server, right? So this is the inside working of the DNS server, that how we can just do this, right? Right. So this is so easy, right? As we can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to provide the IP of container 1 and container 2 a name which is known as site, right? And then the client will have to just remember this name as a site, right? And then it will be able to ping the containers, like first C1, then C2, then C3, then C4, like alternate, like, right? So let's try to create this, right? So let's try to create this. So let's run a container as uh, as os1, right? I'm going to give a name, right? I'm going to give a name to it, and what I'm using my the host web, like host web OS. I don't know what was the version, right? So let's see. So it was version 1.0. Okay. So docker run it name as os1, and I'm going to use camera web and 1.0, right? So because why I'm using this this image, because in the previous videos I have created this image which has the all these services or web hosting services which we want right now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to launch this, right? The services started. So let me do with PHP, right? So let me do it with PHP. So yum install PHP and -y, right? So I'm going to use the PHP web server to configure my web services, so that you can also learn how to use PHP and do these things, right? So let it get downloaded. Just wait for some seconds. Okay, so my connectivity is dropping. Okay, it's trying another mirror. So yeah, so my PHP is done, right? So let me clear it. So as you can see, this has HTTPD installed, right? And it has also installed the PHP web services, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to, as you can see, as you have already know where the web pages are dumped, right? It is dumped inside a folder called where www html, right? So as I do ls, I can see my pages right now, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove forcefully the index.html, right? So I'm going to create a file called index.php, right? Get to the insert mode. So the PHP by default comes with a tag, which is we have to write the PHP like this, right? Right, and for printing something we have to write sorry, like this, print, and we can give into codes like maybe welcome, right? So like this, right? So let's say how to define the container. So let's say welcome, this is my IP, right? And then uh, give an escape sequence. You can just do a normal programming here, and then if I can use the ifconfig command to define which containers I'm using. So for this I have to use for using Linux commands, I have to use the back codes, right, to uh, put up any Linux command inside this, right? So right now what it will provide me the IP of my network, whoever going to access my page, right? So escape colon wq, right, and save and quit. So since I'm using PHP, I can use the PHP as an interpreter. I can use index.php. As you can see, it will tell my IP address of what my IP address is doing, and it is also having HTTPD, so that my services will start automatically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit the container. I'm going to commit it with OS1, and let's say name as PHP web, maybe with version 1, right? So uh, done. Docker images. Right now I'm having the PHP web, right? So what it contains, like this contains the PHP web server and enabled, and it will also provide me a thing called container IP, right? It will provide me this, right? So what I'm going to do now, so let me clear first and show the images, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to launch a container called which, let's say, like in background, right? So, and name will be container C1, right? So I'm going to use the PHP web with version 1, right? So I have to give the name of the network. So so network will be net1, and I have to give the network name and network alias also. So there is a call option called network hyphen alias, right? So the network alias name will be site, right? That's all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a container in the background within the inside the network net1, and inside, and I'm to giving a network alias or another name, just like Google, right? Just like Google, I'm going to give a name called site, right? The name of the container will be C1, and it will be the PHP web 1, right? So hit enter and done, right? So I'm going to similarly launch another container, and C2, right? And done. So if I inspect the docker net network inspect and net1, I'm going to see two containers are running, C1 and C2, right? And both of them are having this IP, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch another container, right? Right now I'm not will not have a thing. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch a simple client, right? So the name will be client only, right? And not with PHP web services. Right now it's just a normal client having the CentOS image, right? It comes to me, and I want a interactive terminal tool, right? So I hit enter and I get into the client. So let me clear it. So what I can do, I can use the curl command to this. So as I've told you, I can use the either the client C1's IP address, but I will only be redirected to client C1 only if I use this IP address, or I use the container name also, right? Or I can use the curl command to get to C2 with this IP address, but I have commonly given a name called site, so I can directly use site, and this will redirect either to C1 and either to C2, like in the round robin manner, right? So let's do curl site. You can see, first it gave me the IP2, second time it gave me IP2, and now it has given me IP3, right? So because of some internal caches and all, it will redirect sometimes to the same thing, right? So again it will give to it has taken me to IP2, and now again 2, and again 2, and again, like, so right now it has gone to IP3, right? Again 2, again 3, right? So how simply we have just created the um, network of this a load balancer, right? So let me create again a very neat diagram for this. So right now this is my network, right? So this is my network, which is net1, right? And then inside this I'm having two containers, right, like this, which is having name called C1, and this is having a name called C2, right? And I'm also having a client, right? This is not this is just a client, right? From CentOS, right? it is just a simple client, but it has the sorry, it has the PHP web service, right? It also has the PHP web service, right? And I have given a unique name to this, which is called site, right? I have given to this a name called site. Right. So what I'm able to do, so these two uh, containers, so these three containers are running inside the net1, and the c1 container has a network another alias name which is known as site. The c2 is another again service which is having the network alias name which is site. And this client which knows nothing about their nothing about their IP address of C1 and not the C2, and even they don't, even this client doesn't know about the C1 and C2 container name. What it know, it just knows a single name which is known as site, right, for accessing the web services, right? So what this site will, what this site is doing, it is redirecting it, the first client to this IP, the second client to this IP, the third client to this IP, the fourth client to this IP, so this is just a simple load balancer which we have created using Docker inside the network, right? And if you are having any other network, right, you can just transport any container on the fly to another network, say net 2, right, that we have created, right? So just on the fly you can just do all those things so easily, right? So that is the beauty of Docker that we are doing. So I have also already shown you, right, this thing, right? So again, if I write, it has go to IP3, then again IP2, then again IP3, then again IP2, right? How simply it is doing the things, right? So let me clear it, right? Let me exit from it. So it is so simple that how easily that we can manage, right? So let me again remove my whole process, like I can use a Docker, the same command, Docker remove hyphen f forcefully, and dollar Docker ps hyphen a hyphen q, right? It will stop my contest and it will clear my environment, right? So done. So as you can see, I have the Docker network ls. So I have somewhat cleared you the basic networking which is in that is inside this Docker, right? So so if you don't want any network, you can just go and delete or remove this network. So you can use Docker network hyphen help. It will say the remove, right, as they remove one or more networks from you. So you can use Docker network rm, which let's say net2. I don't want this network, and done. Right now you do network ls. There's no net2 right now, right? So in just one click you just created a network and you just destroyed your own network, right? So on the fly you can also change the things right now, right? So another one important one is this none, right? So if you launch any container inside this none, so what you'll having, you will be not be getting any IP address, and you will not be getting a gateway address to connect you with the outside world. So this is just like a standalone container which you can use for testing, right? So let me show you like this. So I'm going to use Docker run hyphen it, and inside the network none, right? And just give it a name as os1, and let's say I use ipos because it has the IP configuration, right? I think it was version 1 only. So yes, so it's correct. So if I do uh, ifconfig, you can see I don't have any IP address, right? I don't have any IP address right now. This IP address I cannot use to connect to my network. So if I do ping, it is not reachable. So it is just like a standalone container just for testing purpose. You do not connect with any other container or any other thing, right? So this so I have just explained all the networks, right? So just one remaining host, which will be we will be seeing this in the next video, right? So this is how the basic networking is done inside Docker, right? So how beautiful we have just managed to create a network, create a simple use case of load balancer, right? So how beautiful it is done. This is the thing that we use Docker, right? So this video was I wanted to create this video because it was I thought it was important to deliver the basic networking concepts and then move on to the netting and patching thing, because it is just like a prerequisite for those videos which are coming up further, right? Which are coming up in future, right? So that's all, guys. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed, and please try this with your own system. Try to just remember all those commands and things, right? So thank you so much, and bye. Take care.